Hello and welcome to Shop Talk with Dan the Man. If you're new to this channel, welcome. In today's episode, we're going to review this bad boy. This is the Ridgid cordless 18-volt palm sander. Stay tuned to find out more. Hello, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dan Shannon. I enjoy woodworking as a hobby and being out in the shop. On this channel, dive deep into my shop as we explore tools and tool reviews, as well as chatting about everything related to woodworking. If this grabs you by the tool belt, please subscribe to my channel if you want more videos like this. Welcome back to Shop Talk with Dan the Man. In today's video, we're going to do a review on this. This is Ridgid's 18-volt palm sander, model number R8606. I've had this palm sander for quite a while, so we're going to go over some features of this tool, and then we're going to dive into some hands-on, and then we're going to go over some final thoughts. So first off, let's go over some features. So I'm going to remove the battery. So the first feature you'll see on this unit is the power on and off switch. So there's a power button here. You just click it on, click it off. There is none on the other side, just on the one side. So it would have been nice if they would have had them on both sides depending on how you have your hand, but in this case it is on the left side. So just up from that, you'll see there's a dial, and this dial gives you your speed option. So depending on what you're sanding, whether it's softwood or hardwood, you can adjust your speed by just scrolling this dial back and forth until you get the proper speed that you would like. So I'll give you a preview of that now. So we just take our battery. This is a 4 amp hour. You can get the different sizes, anywhere from a smaller size of 1.5 up to an 8. So depending on your palm sander and how much weight, this will change the balance of this tool slightly. So the lighter the battery is on the back end, kind of the more it leans. So I would recommend, if it was me, I would recommend a smaller battery on the back, so probably a 2. Yeah, you're gonna change your run time to less, but you also have less weight on the back side. Just something to note. So we'll fire it up and I'll give you an example of this dial. So there's one, and of course goes all the way up to 6. Speed 1 to speed 6. Remove the battery again. And yeah, for features, we'll keep going with that. Of course, you've seen me mount the battery. It's just a standard connection that Ridgid uses all their batteries, so no matter what the size is, it just slides on, snaps, and a release. Of course, you press your 2 tabs in, pull up, easy peasy. All right, let's go to the back. So you notice here there's a collection for your dust. This is a great unit. It collects dust very well. You can see on the bottom I have Diablo sandpaper. So in this sandpaper, compared to your traditional, it is a mesh sandpaper. So it's not one with the holes cut out as tradition. And I found this sandpaper to work really well because the mesh, as you can see, is quite breathable. But normally you'd have your traditional holes that would be on a solid paperback sandpaper. that doesn't have any, you know, mesh. So it's very easily to clog. So that's why the paperback would have these holes. Well, over time, on the bottom, just before we talk a little bit more about the collection bag, this is all part of the system where the dust goes and then into the bag. So on the bottom, you'll notice there's a piece of Velcro there. Now over time, this Velcro will start to fade. It won't be as grippy. You know, the edges will start to, you know, curl and have issues. So that removes as well. Very straightforward. You just rip it off. Of course, it's a lot harder than the sandpaper to come off. There's your bottom. It's got felt and grip. And then you just take your new one and apply it the same way. Line up your holes as best you can for the dust collection. And then that's it. Velcro's right on there. Push it nice and firm so it mounts proper. Once you get that seated just the right way. There's your new one put on. And of course these holes will suck in the sawdust and it will go to the bag. Now the bag, to take that on and off, there's a lock. You'll see a little picture of a lock, on and off lock. You just twist it very easily and then the whole thing will just pull right off, just like that. So as you can see there, lots of powder. It's working very well. There's some powder there you can see. So this unit collects lots of dust. You just dump this out. There is a spring inside that keeps this bag kind of stretched out so your dust doesn't kind of push back in the machine. It always keeps it nice and hollow for the collection. Yeah, so that's a look at the dust collection system. To reinstall this, there's a little notch on the side. You just line up your bag, twist it, and that's it. Lock back in, won't come off. As far as any other features, that's pretty much it. It's you know, pretty basic unit. It's got lots of power. Like I said, use the speeds based on what you're sanding or whether or not you're using different types of sandpaper. So just before we do the hands-on, let's have a little look at the sandpaper options. So like I said, I have Diablo sandpaper. This is a newer product, came out in the last few years, and it's a mesh material. So you'll notice it's breathable, and what that allows is the dust to go back and forth, and then when it clogs up, not that it happens too often, but when it does, you can just rip it off and give it a couple taps, freeze all the dust from the mesh, and then remount it to your palm sander. You can get different grades as well. So this package says 320, so that's the grade of sandpaper on this particular package, and this package is a 80 grit. So it says here 80 grit, and the difference between the two is the surface. So of course the 320 is going to be a finer sandpaper. So if you're doing, like, say, pine, we'll use pine for example. The lower the grade, the rougher on the edge. So you're going to want to use a rough grit if you're using a rough board, just to bring it to the finish stage, and then from the finish stage you're going to want to use the 320 to make it feel super soft. And of course there's different types of sandpaper. You don't have to get the Diablo kind. You can get a generic, as long as it is circle and it will fit with the Velcro on the bottom of your machine. That's really all you got to worry about for the sandpaper. But yeah, there's amazing technology with sandpaper. I didn't know about this product up until probably a year ago, and I started using it, and it lasts, I would say, probably 3 times longer, depending on the pressure, of course, you use on the machine and how much. But it does last a lot longer than the paper. I found the paper, especially with the edges, as you were going, sometimes it would rip, and then you'd have to cut another one and put it on. Whereas this, since it's a mesh based, it doesn't rip. It actually just does this here. You can see some wear marks. It kind of wrinkles up, and then you can know that your sandpaper is ready to be thrown out once it starts having some imperfections like that. But yeah, that's great for the features. So without further ado, let's dive into some hands-on. Okay, so we're gonna do some hands-on. I got a rough board here. Hasn't been sanded at all. It's actually a milled board, so it's really rough. Just want to give you a really good example of how well this palm sander works. So I got on an 80 grit, 80 versus a 320. So I'm gonna start off with the 80 grit on here, and then we'll swap it for the 320 and see what it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the 1 setting, and I'll probably head up to setting 6 on my speed adjustment. Okay, I'm gonna head up to 6. So one thing I found with this particular sander, as you're working with it, sometimes it likes to go all over the place and be a little bit uncontrollable. Now, I did mention the weight of the battery on the back does change its overall movement and just how it's placed on the board. So if you find that's a little bit unruly, sometimes I'll grab the back battery instead of using my hand here. I'll just kind of grab the back and let it kind of softly go over the board. Whereas here you got more pressure, and sometimes it'll want to dance around on you. Okay, so you can see there with this board, I've gotten a lot of the rough part off. It's quite smooth now. Now I'm going to swap. This is the 80, so you can see before how rough it was, and then now how smooth it is. Just with that little bit of time with the 80 grit, just to bring it down. Now we're going to swap it over to the 320, and it'll make that nice and soft and shine that up to give us that finished product. Okay, so let's swap that out. Okay, so I swapped the 80 grit out for the 320. As you can see on all the sandpaper, it has your information on the back. So if you're ever not sure, if you misplace the piece of sandpaper, you can just check the back to make sure you have the right piece. All right, let's fire that up. All right, as you can see, just after a short period of time, that's really softened that up. Of course, you can go over it quite a bit more, and if you don't think it was smooth enough the first pass. Obviously you can switch back to the 80, bring it down a bit more, and then put the 320 back on until you get the product that you're looking for. Another thing to note is this particular sander compared to a belt sander, and I do have another video comparing the difference between this sander and a belt sander, so you can look for that video on my page. The thing to note with this sander, when it comes to your grain pattern, this sander, the base will actually move all over the place. So if your grain is up and down, try to go with the grain, but if you go side to side the odd time, since this is not a one-way sander like a belt sander would be, it won't create as much issues with gouging or marking up your wood. So that's a great benefit of the palm sander. Alright, so that concludes the hands-on. As you can see, the difference there is the finished product. Slightly rough still. I'd probably work on it for another 5-10 minutes, but compared to the back, there's no comparison. The sander works amazing. So let's go to some final thoughts. So my final thought on this sander is the fact that it's a Ridgid. You have your LSA service agreement, so anything happens to it, send it away, it gets fixed. So that's a huge thing in my book. The fact that it's cordless is incredible. And whether you're doing a project outside and you don't have an extension cord long enough, or whether you're in the shop and your project's in front of you, there's no hassle with the cord. You're not pulling on the cord, it's not in the way, it's not hanging over their project. There's no cords at all on this unit. So that's the second takeaway for this particular unit. And all around, it does a great job. The collection system on it is great. The variable speed, I really enjoy that. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel. Also check this video out here, and have a great day.